Peace. This is King over Black Supremacy. And with this particular video, I want to deal with the possible reasons of why the FBI, or the Federal Bureau of Investigation, failed to investigate a tip on white supremacist Nikolaz Cruz. I'm gonna just touch on possible reasons. The first I want to deal with is that they so busy inventing false narratives to maintain the infrastructure of white supremacy that we call law enforcement, that they don't have time to investigate real threats to America, like the white supremacists. Those are the real threats to this country. They're the ones going shooting up schools, shooting police officers. They're the real danger, the actual white supremacists. But if you go at the white supremacists, then it's going to lead you to the institution of white supremacy. See, the white supremacist is running off the same ideology that the institution of white supremacy is running off of. So if you go at one, you're going to end up taking down the other. So you got to have big distractions. And white supremacy has to kind of defend itself by default, trying to protect itself by default. But they're so busy inventing false narratives like the black identity extremism and chasing innocent black loving people like Rakim Bulligan and the Huey P. Newton organization. They're so busy chasing them and trying to characterize and classify black militants and black nationalists as terrorists that they overlook obvious white supremacist threats to human life in this country. They actually feel that black militancy is more of a threat to white supremacy, or more of a threat to the institutions of white supremacy, to America, than white supremacists. They actually feel that. I'm gonna tell you why that is. For one, black supremacists, or black militants, I'll put it that way, usually target officers, the government, police officers. They are targeting the institutions of white supremacy. That's what makes them appear to be more of a threat, because this is going right at them. It's going right at their thing. And the so-called white supremacists, or white nationalists, white militias, insane white lone wolves inspired by white nationalism, they're actually just killing soft targets. They're going at groups of white people. They're going and shooting up schools and shooting up innocent people. They're not necessarily targeting law enforcement particularly. They're just killing random white people and black people and people of all nationalities, just to make a statement, just to lash out. They're just lashing out, so they're not organized really in what they're doing. They're really no threat to the government. They're just more of a threat to public safety. So, and it's not about the public, it's about maintaining the infrastructure of white supremacy. So we'll sacrifice the public if it means that we can maintain our institution of white supremacy. As long as we can stay in power, there can be a few human sacrifices by white supremacist groups. We have to deal with that, as long as we can stay in power and stay in control. So they invent this false narrative and focus all tax dollars and resources on investigating black groups and black leaders, while their people, the masses of their people and American citizens, are being shot down by white supremacists and white nationalists. That's what's happening. White identity extremism is way more dangerous, and it's been dangerous for over 400 years. It's way more dangerous than black identity extremism in America. The difference is white identity extremism is a danger to the common person, and black identity extremism is a danger to the institutions of white supremacy, the government, law enforcement. Let me be clear on that. Other reasons of why the FBI possibly did not investigate the tip on the white supremacist Nikolaz Cruz. Because I'm gonna tell you this, the reason that is because they could have just went ahead and investigated it. But if they allowed it to happen and just sat back and let it go down, then they would have greater of a reason to now walk over people's rights. Now they can say, you know, since we didn't investigate that tip on Nikolaz Cruz and he ended up going shooting 17 people, now every time we get a tip, to make sure we don't make this mistake no more, we can just run and kick in your door now whenever we have a tip. Forget your rights. Forget the amendments. Forget your right to privacy and all that, and warrants and all that. Now, given that this happened and we didn't act on the tip, now we can just run in and kick in your damn door. If we hear any little gossip about you, or we just have any little feeling, whether it be spooky or whatever, you know, any little superstition, we can come and kick in your door, and everybody's going to accept it and justify it, because it's so important that we move on these tips in order to save the public. So now there's a new narrative that's come out of that. Like now you've just put a battery pack in cops that just want to run out on every tip and just on every inclination and every instinct, run in and just run over people. And even target some people, profile some people, stereotype some people, move out on any gossip, use any excuse to run over your ass. Because they're going to use now this need to act on these tips, the hype around it. They're going to use that now, and that's going to carry over to the black identity extremism. They're going to use that on black people, where I got a tip on you, so I have to come kick in your door and snatch you up and hold you without any bond or any charges or anything. We just have to investigate. That's the second reason that they might have done it. There are other possibilities, but what we know is a lot of these white supremacists, militias and terrorists are being let off the hook, and they're being classified as having a mental illness because they don't want to put resources dollars into attacking and fighting white supremacy, even if they have to lose a few people. They don't want to use their money fighting white supremacy, because if they really fight white supremacy in America, they're ultimately going to end up fighting themselves. That the white terrorist groups and terrorist movements and white organizations is a children. They're the children. They're the grandchild, the great-grandchildren of the FBI, of J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI started off as a white militia organization that took the power in its hand to investigate and became an agency. They started off as a white militia. And they was patriotic with the same ideology, and it was white supremacist conservatism at its essence. So if they really attack the fundamental white supremacist motivation of the lone wolf terrorists, white nationalists, and if they really go at hard enough, eventually they would be going at themselves, and they would end up being anti-white supremacy, anti-white nationalists, and in the end, unpatriotic and un-American. Because white nationalism, white supremacy is really patriotic, and it is a true face of Americanism. It is how this country was spawned into existence. It was the mindset. It was white identity extremism that is the true father of America. The founding fathers of America originally are white identity extremists. Columbus, all these motherfuckers is white identity extremists. So they can't go too hard at white supremacy and white nationalism, really. Because at the end of the day, they were going against themselves. That's why you have a president in office, Donald Trump, who's a white nationalist and white supremacist. And all those little white nationalists, white supremacist militia groups voted for him and got him in office because it is fundamentally the same. It's King Noble Black Supremacy. Join my website, www.kingnobleuncensored.com. Donate and don't hate.